Excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. What is that, you ask? That's the Constitution of the United States. To be more exact, the Eighth Amendment. Now, ask yourselves, is the death penalty or capital punishment considered a cruel punishment? Well, I have done countless research, spent countless hours to looked at hundreds of documentaries, tons of videos, and other sources to form an educative point on why it should be removed. We no longer live in a time where we abide by the law of retaliation. We live in a modern society and a democracy that should end this barbaric practice, and this is why you should vote against capital punishment. Well, I am Itamar Nojos, and I am here to share with you guys on why capital punishment should be removed. Times are changing, and unjust rules need to change too. Capital punishment violates the Eighth Amendment, as mentioned before, because it is immoral and cruel. Those convicted are affected because they are given a cruel punishment, which is death. Now, according to the NBC News, those convicted felons can be executed in 5 different ways, which include lethal injection, gas chamber, hanging, or firing squad. Now, out of all those 5 mentioned, not a single one sounds like an uncruel punishment. And now, many argue that these criminals are deserving of capital punishment because of the heinous crimes they have committed. And even Dennis Prager, creator of Prager University and also a famous political commentator, also runs his own channel on YouTube, he states that because of capital punishment, families are able to given a justice because justice is served. Like, as in, let's say someone murdered someone's family, it's just for the family to see like capital punishment. Now, to that, I counter. I say, wouldn't it be more just seeing that same person serve out the rest of their life in a cell? And yeah, that to me sounds more just. Now, the problem, because okay, as mentioned before, there's no just way of killing a person, and I'm not the only one that agrees. Pharmacies are also taking in notice. Pharmacies do not want to take part in this. For example, and why I say pharmacies is because the main supplier of killing these criminals is by lethal injection. Now, who supplies lethal injections, the deadly cocktail? Well, pharmacies. But as time goes on, it's getting more difficult because pharmacies don't want to have this public, be in the public like, hey, like we're supporting the death of these criminals. For example, Johnson & Johnson, which is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, invented the drug called etomidate, which is a crucial ingredient in the deadly cocktail that these convicts are given through lethal injection. Now Johnson & Johnson, state a medicine that a scientist originally invented more than half a century ago should not be used to kill prisoners. Now, if our own pharmacies disagree with this cruel punishment, why should we continue to do it? Pharmacies aren't the only ones. A survey conducted by Gallup, which is a anything but biased website. They cover anything from like approval rate of president, and yeah, you get the point, you get the gist. Well, they conducted a survey of all the Americans' approval of the capital punishment, and it has been at an all-time low since 45 years. Now, as you can see, there's still a 55% approval rate, but take notice that Americans have been for this punishment, and it's like now starting to show, like as mentioned before, it's been the lowest since 45 years. Now, this survey demonstrates even the masses are noticing that capital punishment is not the way to go. Now, my solution is death penalty should be replaced with life on no parole. Now, you guys might say, like, doesn't that exist already? Well, yes, it does. What separates my solution from I guess the one already in place, is they're not entitled to appeal to the courts for, let's say, a parole. But again, this is only to, because again, the category that capital punishment, the crimes those are in, are not compared, to those as a minor crime. So yeah, that's why I say no parole. And the opposition says, why do that? It would be more expensive. And logically, that sounds like a logical explanation. You keep these guys for the rest of your life, and it's just costing taxpayer monies. Well, I'm here to inform you that that's not true. California, for example, spent over $4 billion on just 13 executed convictions. And why such the big numbers? You can see here in the chart. It's not just a process of, you're committed for murder, you're on death row. These criminals also, like mentioned before, they appeal, which also costs money because they have to go to trial again. And then, as you can see, I got the blue right there for pre-trial trial costs, automatic appeals by the state, federal hereby appeals, and then the cost of incarceration. Now, the $4 billion doesn't compare to what it was, like mentioned before, life in prison. And since reinstating the death penalty in 1978, California taxpayers were roughly spending $4 billion to fund a dysfunctional death penalty system that has convinced no more than 13 executions. Now again, we should end this. You should contact local officials, local state officials to again end the capital punishment. And by killing capital punishment, it gives people their constitutional right, and with your help, we can make sure criminals are held accountable for their actions by paying with their lives throughout, not like they'll leave their lives as capital punishment, but through incarceration as opposed to, the death penalty. And despite how heinous the crimes are, we must remember, when fighting monsters, you must take care not to become a monster yourself. Thank you. Monsters.